What is good, everybody, man? Welcome into the Blue Bloods official podcast of FCS Football Central on SI. Myself, my co-host, Coach Frederick. Coach Fred, man, how we feeling today? Big game this weekend, man. Finally get out of that FBS D2 stretch. First FCS game of the year, man. So how we feeling?
Man, excited about it. Good week of practice. Kids are excited about it. Now it's like you said, out of the SEC neck of the woods and out of the SAIC neck of the woods, and now you kind of get to see what you're made of and see how you are shaping up versus the rest of the country. So really excited about it, man.
Hey, I'm excited, man. That's one of the matchups I'm looking forward to. You guys, we finally get to see, like I said, against an FCS opponent, McNeese, much improved from last year when y'all played them. Clifton and those guys are doing their thing over there, man.
It's a big win
Sadly,
for
man,
them last week.
massive win, and shout out to our
Anybody
guy,
checked on
man.
the rev?
Yeah, not doing well. I can imagine our guy Dustin's not doing well. I'm sure he'll be in the comments later. I will say, man, I know he's not available this weekend, man, but I'm hoping our guy Micah Davey gets back healthy, gets back on the field at linebacker. That's a massive loss for McNeese, man. I know
For them?
he
Yeah.
wants to be out there, so shout out to him. But coach, it was we always start the show with this, man. It was a nasty week for me in HBCU fantasy football, man. It was a nasty week from first to I think I might have been last this week, man. It was just everything. But my starting linebacker gets ejected for targeting in the first half. You know who that was because he plays down there on the reservation. He was balling, man. I was like, I'm
Still
feeling
led,
good. They might
still
get
led the
20
team in
tackles.
tackles. Still
Yeah,
led the team in
and
tackles.
he gets ejected. My starting quarterback misses half the game. And then my starting running back misses the game last weekend. And I knew it was going to be bad. I was like, yep, we're missing three starters. Not great. Listen, coach, we're still in the lead, though. Still in the lead for the season. I'm in first. G is in second. Coach, you be
Oh,
proud. Repping the
geez.
Braves. G is the only other person to get to triple digits in this league. He had 101 this weekend. So shout out to G. And
That's from last to second, huh?
yeah, last to second. 101 points this past weekend, man. So shout out to G. Apparently, listen, he kind of he had the right strategy last week, coach. I went with Quad Brown in the NAIA game, which they almost lost. We didn't have a recap show, but that would have been a whole conversation there. But listen, hey, listen, he picked the right Alcorn player. My Alcorn player gets ejected. His scores, I think, 4 touchdowns last weekend for Xavier. So it's all good. It all comes out in the wash, man. I'm feeling real confident this week. Listen, tell my guy no targeting this weekend. I got him again. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
need no more targeting, man. I need him to play the
we've
full
had
game.
that talk. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've had that talk with him.
Oh man.
Before this, we've had that talk with him.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. And shout out to Paris, Mr. Kincaid in the chat, man. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. It's good to be back. Because let's get to our game of the week, man. We got a game of the week, an honorary game of the week, and an HBCU game of the week that we got to talk about. The first one I want to bring up, Montana, Western Carolina. Coach, we've talked about this game extensively in the preseason. Top 25 matchup. This kind of, with how the season's played out, actually looks more of a must win for these teams than originally expected. Montana's already lost a game they shouldn't have lost against North Dakota. Same for Western Carolina, losing to Campbell 2 weeks ago, had a big ranked win over Elon last week. Coach, just to put in perspective, Montana is a 16.5 point favorite, 55.5 over under. Man, your initial thoughts on this one?
Well, as I was flipping through, um, WCU was going to be one of my super dogs, just because um, if we could have went back, you know how how big of a football game this would have been last season, man. Uh, had everybody stayed in place for it this year. But I think Western Carolina's built for it. CG, I think he is a kid that can go on the road and win you a game, and I think he's going to put it to the test as far as the grids are concerned. And like you said, it's only week 4, but it is getting down to the nitty gritty, so to speak, with some of these contests, and this is one of them. Losers got a long way to go if you are on the losing end of this one here. But I think BA, I think they're going to be put to the test. But I like CG in this just because he's a kid that can go. and do it, and they believe in it. So I like Western in this game.
I'm gonna say this. I thought this was a much better matchup this offseason
Mm,
because I thought that Western Carolina had the young players at wide receiver and running back that were really gonna take that step forward, and I just don't know if we've seen that yet, coach, and
right,
that gives me a little bit of pause on this one is just because you can't be one dimensional and go on the road and beat this Montana defense. They're too talented, especially in the front seven. Because if you can't run the football and you just allow those edge rushers and those linebackers just to pin their ears back and come get Cole, it's just a bad matchup. And I look at what they've done, coach. They've really struggled to run the football this year.
no doubt, no doubt.
I mean,
But
now
they've got a bad man on the outside, and
they do.
I
They do
I
in
think that's
Colombo.
gonna yeah, that's gonna force the Grizz to either you're gonna play coverage or you're gonna say, hey, we're gonna get that ball out your hand. Now it's the straight dice game. Uh,
That's
does
fair.
does 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 CG choose right, or does the DC pick right in what he's doing? But yeah, I'm with you. The top rusher, 31 carries, uh, a little under 5 yards. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot of carries for only having 147 yards. But maybe this is one of those games where they get on track.
They have to. I like I told Timothy on the audio episode. If you guys don't remember, we have two previews, two recaps a week, man. Audio version dropped this morning. So if you listen to that, man, you already know a lot of my thoughts on this game. Coach, I just worry because they struggled to run against Campbell, who's
Mhm.
talented. Let's not get out of question. Campbell's more talented than maybe we gave him credit for, but they're not Montana in terms of physicality and talent up front. And his best game was last week against Elon, 81 yards, a touchdown. Again, a massive step up, I think, in competition in this front seven with the talent that they're going to see against the Grizz. And then you look at Cole Gonzalez. I said this. The Montana fans might get a weird perspective of him because he hasn't played his best football this year. He's completed
Yep.
less than 60% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, 4 picks. All 4 picks came in the same game. He looked great last week against a good Elon team on the road, but Cole Gonzalez is going to have to probably play the best game of his career, coach, and they still probably going to need the run game to go for about what 100 to like 150 on the ground and be efficient. Take some of the pressure off of him. Get it where you can get some one-on-one opportunities on the outside, and you keep those edge rushers from coming up the field and coming to get you. And you mentioned the wide receiver unit. Listen, AJ's that guy. But who's next? Because last year, coach, you look, they had the kid, Sincere Lee, who's now at Pitt. They had a guy, David White, who went to the NFL. They had a lot of talent around AJ. Calvin Jones has shown some promise, but outside of that, they
Yeah.
don't really have an established playmaker out there. So can do they bracket AJ or double him? And now you got to figure out who's your next option. Who can you go to if AJ's not there? If zero's covered, where do you go? That's a concern for me. And then on the flip side, coach, we didn't really talk about the offense. I understand the quarterback question mark for Montana. That's always a thing. My question is, can Western Carolina, who's hyper athletic in the front seven, they might have one of the most athletic linebacking cores with Antoine Williams, Hayward McQueen. They have a lot of Florida boys. I know how you feel about them. Got a lot of Florida boys in that linebacking core, but Montana has actually done pretty well running the football. Eli Gilman, coach, averaging 9 yards per carry this year, 5 touchdowns. He's looked better than he did even in his Jerry Rice award-winning year last year. If Montana just wants to be physical and run the football, Western Carolina is going to have to be able to match that physicality and put it on a yacht to throw them in this game.
And that's what they've got to do, because they've got to find a way to make up some ground here just by starting. And they've had a tough first two games. Talking about Western, but they're going to need to score a little more than what they're averaging, which is what right around 19 points a game. They're going to
Yeah.
need to score a little more than that, and then they're going to have to force the Grizz into something that they don't want to do. And like you said, I think that's past the football, and you've got to
Yeah.
stop EG in order to do that. So the defense is going to be up for a test, but I just feel that CG is one of those kids that can, as we said last year, he's one of those kids that can shoot it out with the best of them and keep you in the game, going score for score.
So are you going with Western just to cover, or are you going with the straight upset? They're going to win outright?
We're talking cover.
Okay, I like it. I'm with you. I believe on last night's show, I had Montana by 14 in this one. I think that's a safe assumption. I actually think, and I agree with Timothy on this, I do think it's going to be a little bit low scoring, more so than people think, because Montana's defense is going to be super talented. And I don't know if Montana could push the ball down the field passing. And so I do think Western Carolina is going to have some opportunities to create some negative plays. I want to say they had 9 players, coach, record at least a half a tackle for loss last week against a good Elon running attack. So we'll see what this matchups. But yeah, we're both going Montana here. Both Western to cover, though. Quickly, coach, because then we'll get to our HBCU game of the week. Southern Illinois, SEMO. If you remember, coach, this is the war of the wheel where they fight for
Yeah.
the boat wheel. We covered this one last year. This is always an electric game, coach. One thing to note before I toss it to you: starting quarterback DJ Williams for Southern Illinois out with a hand injury. He's going to have surgery on his hand. He's out for the foreseeable future. So Hunter Simmons making his first career start this weekend for Southern Illinois. Can the Salukis avoid the upset bid here from the Red Hawks?
I don't think so, man. And here's why I say that. When you're talking about a guy that's, your signal caller, your trigger puller, and you go to the number two, and the number two gets all the reps in the week, no doubt about it. But he's missed a lot of reps as well because he's been the number two. And, I just think that, Simo comes in, it couldn't be a worse opponent for them to have to start their number two. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? If that
agreed.
makes sense. Couldn't be a worse opponent because they're going to get after him. And, I just think the experience factor uh, from the other side of the ball is just going to take over. And, it's unfortunate, that their guys hurt. But, number two will come back. He'll be better the next game. But this game right here is going to be one of those games where he's got to catch up to the speed. And I just don't think he's going to be able to catch up to the speed quick enough to keep Simo from taking this one here.
Yeah, that it makes me nervous that they lost him because coach so it was kind of like this gradual increase for him in terms of production these first 3 games because he transferred over from Murray State where he was solid, but last week, coach, against Incarnate Word in a top 15 matchup, 380 total yards and 3 touchdowns, led the Salukis in rushing and passing. He was
Right.
everywhere, and he was the catalyst for that offense. And oh gosh, I think they're super talented at wide receiver. Coach, I know we didn't have a recap episode, but Keontez Lewis and Howard transferred. Deshaun Hezekiah combined for the second most yards in a single game in school history, almost 300 through the air between those two. They have weapons around them. Coming into the season, though, coach, I was not sold on their rushing attack, and DJ Williams has over 100 yards more than the next leading running back. Are you going to be
And
able to run the football? Because Hunter Simmons is not DJ Williams athletically.
and that's the other issue. You are looking at somebody that's almost 800 yards of total offense for you gone. How are you going to replace that 800 yards that DJ had for you? And that's going to be the issue, and that's why I say it's going to be an uphill battle for HS just because he ain't that kid. And it's nothing against him, but he's just not that kid. And
Yeah,
the defense is going to have to carry uh, a really big load. I don't know if they can help out, score some points, get ahead. If they can get ahead, I think they have an opportunity. But I just don't think Simmons, HS, uh, is up to speed for this one here. And you're losing too much when you lose DJ.
I agree. And I will say the other thing on the flip side for Simo's offense, you're going to have to find some sort of balance. Coach, the last game where they beat UT Martin, they're coming off a bye week, had negative 11 rushing yards on 10 carries, but still won the game because Paxton DeLaurent throws for almost 406 touchdowns.
Where is he
So,
at in the nation? Where's he at in the nation? Because he's almost at 800 yards right now. He's got to be leading or in the top
uh,
five.
I want to say he's up there. I know that Timothy had him at number 4 for the Walter Payton Award. Let me go to
Completing
passing yards
60%
here.
of his passes. I mean,
So Paxton's 7th right now in passing this year
wow,
in 3 games.
7.
Well, you also got to remember Maverick McIver for Abilene Christian threw for 500 against Texas Tech in week 1. So, you got guys like that. Derek Robertson's averaging like 370 yards per game right now for Monmouth. You got Calzada above him.
Monmouth.
Clark at Missouri State, Hastings at UC Davis, and DeNoble at Lafayette are all above him right now. So he's in the top 10 though firmly. So you got to give him some credit, man. And he had a hell of a performance against UT Martin, man. He was their entire offense against UT Martin. They couldn't run the ball, coach. He threw 63 passes in that game. And also, you got to remember too, Coach DeLaurent missed the entire second half against Simo against North Alabama with that injury in week 0 too. So he played a half less than all those other top quarterbacks.
Ooh. That's eye popping, man. You go when you look
Yeah.
at his numbers, 60%. That's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah, and I've loved the wide receiver core this year. Now, I do think it's a little bit of a by committee approach on how to replace Ryan Flournoy, but Dorian Anderson and Keon Pedro have been electric, and I think defensively they have a lot of guys who have been making plays for them. Coach, I'm with you. I'm a little bit worried because Southern Illinois' defense is really good at generating negative plays. They get into the backfield, they're aggressive. They've run a very similar type scheme to Montana, and it gives FCS teams a lot of problems. But coach, I'm gonna go with the upset as well. I got Simo winning. It gives me a little bit of heartburn to pick that just because I've been down in Southern Illinois and they just keep responding. If DJ was healthy, this would be a different conversation for me. It's just the loss of DJ. I think it's going to take a week or two to get that offense back in rhythm. I think Simo is able to take advantage. And by the way, coach, Southern Illinois is a 9.5-point favorite over Simo, even without DJ Williams.
Yeah, I'm taking Simo in the points
Agreed.
for the win. Because you gotta look at it. There's going to be a mental part that those kids have got to get over to. Because they
Yeah.
look to DJ for so much, and now he's not there. So that mental. Yeah, you talk about it during the week. You try to move on, but it's not the same as on Saturday. And I think that's one of the other factors that they're going to have to face.
That's fair. Now, our HBCU game of the week, there were 2 picks for this one. I went with this one, though, because I think these are 2 better teams, even though there's probably a matchup with more stakes on it this weekend that's over there in PV. But I went with Jackson at Grambling, coach, 9.5-point favorites.
Yeah, it's going to be
Jackson
interesting.
on the road, 9.5-point favorites over Grambling State, over under 54.5 last time I looked. Coach, I mean, these 2 teams are coming off 2 pretty big wins. Now, I know Grambling didn't look super impressive offensively against Commerce, but they found a way to win, forced 6 turnovers, won a tough out-of-conference Southland opponent, and they got it done in overtime. Now, Jackson just – listen, I know what the final score says, 33-15. It was not that close, and it was arguably, I think, the most dominant performance I think I've seen from a team in the SWAC this year so far. Jackson looks super impressive, and I'm excited for this one, Coach. I think in the whole at night, this is going to be a little bit interesting to see how Jackson goes on the road and performs. But, Coach, give me your initial thoughts on this one.
This is a fun matchup. It's one of those ones that's going to count, and I
No,
think
doesn't
no,
count.
wait, what? I thought this one counted.
Out of conference. Yeah, it does not count yet. So back-to-back SWAC non-conference games for Jackson. This is the kind of the return match. Remember when Grambling went to Jackson that last year prom? This is the return matchup for that.
Uh, when um when
They put
the
up like 60.
Watergate or whatever it was. Yeah,
Yeah, Watergate.
yeah,
Yeah, when it was too hot out there. So
yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah. Nah, I thought this was we were under the impression that this was their crossover game
nope,
from the East, their crossover game from the West. Oh well, why play it? Now, anyway, that's a
money.
whole nother argument.
Yeah,
That's a whole nother argument. But it's going to be a fun matchup, and I think this is going to tell a lot of people um, where Graham is because
yes,
everybody is really high on Jackson, and for good reason, no doubt about it. But Graham is going to be able to showcase what they've been talking about all summer. That's another one of those teams that created a hype train with everything that they were doing. So this matchup is going to be interesting to say the least. Uh, when you're talking about one team averaging close to 28 points, the other team is kind of averaging right around 35, I guess.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
So what defense shows up?
Uh, okay, I'm gonna say it. I think the stats for Grambling are not necessarily showing the whole story. I don't think they've been that impressive offensively, personally. I I just I think what I've seen, coach, is flashes of individual players being super talented, but as a
Mhm.
whole unit, I don't know if they're gelling at the highest level right now. Now that could change. That is scary getting into conference play because you see all the pieces that are working individually, but I don't see it as a full unit yet. Now, I will say this: I think this is a terrible matchup given the three data points that we've seen for both of these teams. This matchup strongly favors Jackson, in my opinion. It's just because you know this. Even if you can make argument on who's the most talented team, whatever. If you have a one team that has not shown the physicality at the line of scrimmage and has struggled to stop the run against a team
That can
that
run.
that can run and wants to run, man, that's just God. That's just not a good match, Coach. Commerce isn't even a dominant run team, and Grambling had zero answers defensively last week. Coach, 54 carries for 267 yards and 4 touchdowns last week against Texas A&M Commerce. Allowed 100 yards to Tuskegee. Allowed over 100 yards to Louisiana Lafayette, which, I'm not going to hold that against them. And then on the flip side, Coach, you've thrown for less than 200 yards in 2 of your 3 games. The only time you didn't was against Tuskegee, and you have not surpassed 120 yards on the ground yet if you're Grambling.
Yeah, and that ski game was kind of one of those games that was kind of thrown in between your big game and your FCS, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you on that, and it's gonna be interesting because Jackson's gonna pressure Miles,
Yes,
MC.
for
I'm
sure.
sorry, gonna pressure MC. Um, will MC run it? Will they be able to protect him?
He
And
ain't
I,
running it.
that's I didn't want to say, but what happens when it breaks down? Is he going to be able to get them out of trouble? Because
Yeah.
I got to believe that Jackson's going to pressure, 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 and like you said, Jackson can run it, but they can run it from the
Yeah.
quarterback spot. They can run it by committee with the running backs that they have. Um, this one's going to be interesting. It's in the hole at night. Strange things happen down there,
Yeah.
but I got to
That's a
believe
fact.
in everything in me won't allow me to pick this game. So,
That's
but I
fair.
just think it's gonna be interesting to see uh, if the people from up the street can go in there and make this a laugh about a third quarter.
Okay, so would I be surprised if it's close? This is the first tough road test for this Jackson team, so I'm not going to hold it against them if it's close, Coach, on the road against a solid Grambling team because I do think Grambling, based on what we've seen out of the West, is going to be in contention. I think right now, from what I see from Grambling, they're better than UAPB. I think they're probably better than PV right now. I think they're definitely better than Southern. So you're in the top 3 right
Okay.
now, and we'll see. So I will say I think the quarterback question mark for Jackson is interesting, especially because listen, McCoy injured last week, his helmet cut underneath his face, but he was available this week at practice. Jacoby and I thought looked solid because I think we see both of them again, and so I'll that's interesting to me. Just your opinion, coach. I mean, have you got to see both of these quarterbacks and just, I mean,
Yeah,
has
yeah.
one like emerged for you?
No, and that's what's kind of puzzling about it. They've both played the FBS, they've both played the D2, they've both played the FCS. And you try to get that gauge on it, and it's just one of those deals where it's like they have moments, and then they have those moments where you're like, did he just skip that one?
Yeah,
So it's just it's tough. So it's going to be to me. which quarterback, which team can get the quarterback to settle in, and that to me is going to be the team that gets the running game going, and
Yeah,
that serves one team better than the other team. If we're being honest and just looking at the numbers.
that's fair. It's a interesting debate because I've seen the fan base kind of go back and forth. Like some people like one kid, some people like the other kid. Just me personally, I do think it's a tough debate because they bring such different aspects to the offense. You have
Mhm.
one kid that impacts the run game in a completely different way than the other because McCoy can take it to the house any given play. Like he's got that type of athleticism. Like he's explosive. He can do a lot with his legs. He's a lot more agile than Jacobian. But man, it's hard to prepare for what 6'4", 230. And in those short yardage situations in the red zone, I mean, it's tough to prepare for that. And so they bring different aspects. I will say, I do think as a overall passer, when you encompass everything you want in a quarterback, Jacobian's the better overall quarterback. But I understand the infatuation with the insane athleticism you get with McCoy because you just don't find that a lot of the times. It's just his film at his last school is his film at his last school is okay passing. Like there's nothing special. And I don't think we've seen a lot of his passing against FCS programs because he got hurt on what, like the first or second drive last week. So he really didn't even get to throw in that game. So I do want to see if Cam does start, I need to see Cam prove to me that he can throw the football consistently. Because I'm telling you that if I get this infatuation with his athleticism. Coach, if that play turns into a pick six on that first drive against Southern,
Ooh,
I think the fans are having a completely different tone about who should be the starter. And
it's
so we'll see. And I get the skepticism around both, but I think they'll play both. But coach, let's just be honest. This game is going to be about Jackson running the football. It's going to be about Irv Mulligan, JD Martin, Ahmad Miller, Cameron McCoy, Jacoby and Morgan. The list goes on. And I just think they got too many bodies in the backfield for Grambling. And that offensive line, coach, I mean, I talked about it in the preseason. I thought Jackson probably had one of the best offensive lines in HBCU football. And last week, listen, Southern had the SWAC Defensive Player of the Year, DN. Coach, he had some tackles, but weren't a lot of negative plays going on.
right. Null and void. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you.
I'm going
I
Jackson
agree
to
with you.
cover, Coach. I know you don't want to give a pick on this one. I like Jackson by about 14. I think 2
Okay.
touchdowns. And I can see this being a one-score game early, Coach, but I think you're going to see in the third, fourth quarter that Jackson's just going to grind it out and they're going to find a way to win the game. Um, Real quick, Coach, Super Dog picks. I'll give mine first because you'll laugh at this one because I made my Super Dog picks on last night's show, so I already got mine saved. My Super Dog pick was Alcorn State. I had
Take it.
I had Alcorn State on there last night. 11-point underdogs against McNeese,
Take it.
double digits. And I think with Micah Davey being out, some injuries on that defense, I just find it hard to believe that McNeese is going to win this game by 2 touchdowns or more. So I had Alcorn as my super dog this week, Coach.
I like it. I like it.
Who you got?
Mine, mine was was a Western Carolina. I told you that one. But and just hear me out. I think that the Fighting Dawson Nodems, I think they, I think they come out of there with a win. If they
Really?
get back, if they get back to opening night ways, which I'm sure uh, they've worked on to get there, they were pretty impressive. Now, I mean, they had that run game rolling, and they almost got out of Atlanta with a win over FAMU. And someone is saying that they're getting back to that. I can't say who's saying that, but I think that they will get back to that deal. And it's I'm gonna take them in the 5 for the win. Actually, we're gonna take the points and the win.
Okay. Yeah, that's a pick right there. That's a super dog pick. I'll give it to you on that. That is a super dog pick. So who are they playing? VMI.
Yeah,
VMI's 0-3. They got blown out by William and Mary, which is understandable on the road. They did lose to Bucknell this year, and they got blown out by Georgia Tech last week. So maybe, I mean, VMI has not looked impressive this year. I will say though, man, Norfolk State just looked they
Ain't
looked
no doubt.
atrocious last week. Coach,
Ain't no doubt.
there was a time that Hampton had more points scored than Norfolk had total yards, and that was in like the late third quarter.
Yeah, no doubt. No
That's
doubt.
oof. Now, what's this? The third? No, this is the fourth game, so it should be the last game without Otto Coons potentially,
Yep.
which is a positive. So not bad. I will say my honorable mention on last night's show was Tennessee State. Tennessee State's 10.5 point underdogs against Tennessee Tech this weekend
Mm.
on the road. So I like Tennessee State to cover, man. Draylon Ellis has been playing at a high level outside of that North Dakota State game. The other 2 weeks, though, man, he's been looking really, really good. So I'm going to go Tennessee State as my other super dog. Coach, let's get to the pick 'em, though. Spend a little bit extra time on this one. We're going to start here, Coach. Townsend at North Dakota State, minus 24.5 point favorites for the Bison. Any chance Townsend pulls off the massive upset?
No, not happening.
Even with North Dakota State struggles last weekend, we didn't even get to talk about it because we missed the recap. Or no concern?
None.
That's fair. I got North Dakota State winning that one too. I've already made my pick for Tennessee State, Tennessee Tech. Coach, who you taking there?
Um, Again, you drive that Tennessee State thing. You drive that train as well as anyone. Um,
Man, I told Timothy last night, man. I like when I picked them, I just said I'm a glutton for punishment, man. I just I'm gonna ride this. I'm gonna ride the bus until they pull the e-brake and we just break down the middle of nowhere. That's where we're going with that one.
but you talked me into it, and here's why: because they always get you going early, and we're
There you
still
go.
early in
If
the
this game
season.
was in week 11, I'm picking
Oh,
Tennessee
absolutely.
Tech.
Yeah, you got to go the other way. Got to go the other way. So yeah, I'm going with Tennessee State.
Look at Timothy, man. He said Tennessee Tech because that was Timothy's sleeper in the Big South OVC. Now, because we already picked this one, but this is an interesting one. ETSU coming off of taking North Dakota State down to the wire at Elon. Elon coming off the loss to Western Carolina. Elon's a 6.5 point favorite in this one, Coach.
I'm taking Elon.
Agreed. Coach, I don't know. Maybe you could speak on it from a coaching side real quick in the guys with the collared shirts, but how tough is it to get your team refocused after a game like that where you're up on the number 2 team in the country, North Dakota State, 35-23 and collapse?
It's tough, and it usually takes you 2 weeks to get over that because you the more you say we're not dwelling on it, we're not talking about it, the more you hear the whispers in practice, people talking about that play, this play, and all they hear around campus is, man, you guys did well, you almost yada yada yada. So it takes about 2 weeks to be honest, unless you just have a super senior laden ball club that's really mature and can move on. But this one's gonna be tough, and they're gonna be talking about this one for a long time.
Yeah, and Colby had my thoughts completely. I'm a big fan of Trey Lamb and had him on the show. I think ETSU is going to be better than people expected this year. I said that they might have a chance to compete for the SoCon, but I feel a letdown game coming, Coach, on the road against an Elon team that's also looking for a rebound. Where, Coach, I know what the final score says for that Western Carolina game. Elon had every chance to win that game by like 3 scores and just shot
Turned it
themselves in the foot
over.
and
Yep.
shot them in the foot again, and it was just bad. I want to go here, Coach. Furman at William and Mary. William and Mary 6.5 point favorites. Coach, a real quick note. I was vocal about I was not high on Furman this year. They benched their quarterback, starting a 3-star true freshman out of Florida, Trey Hedden, now at quarterback.
Say less. We're going with Foreman. We're
Oh,
going
I
with
like it.
Furman. Say less. We're going with
I,
Furman.
I knew as soon as I said he was from Florida, you were going to take him, Coach. And the best part is he's from your like that Tampa area, man. He played at Tampa Catholic last year.
Hmm.
A real good
He can play.
3-star kid, man.
Yeah, he can play.
Yeah, so I like it. Going with the Furman upset, I'm going William and Mary, Coach. I think they cover the spread as well. Now, we have 2 of these on here, Coach. So no spread on this one. This is a pick 'em. Can't be any closer according to the sports books. Southern PV. No spread. It's just a pickle game this week.
Man, look, the loser's in trouble. I'm talking about the loser is in trouble.
Oh
Um,
man,
I got to go PV because they're home.
I like it. And also too, man, I'm hoping this kid recovers because I'm going to say it. I really, really do think Zay Set has a future at this level and can be very, very special at quarterback. And I hated to see him get hurt like that. Coach, a reported high ankle sprain for him, but with
Well,
no really timetable on him because you know how those high ankle sprains are. You just never know how long it's going to take. So
yep.
Noah Bodden this week. I just don't trust Noah, man, after what I saw from him in his few starts where he was just really, really struggling. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick PV too, Coach. I think Cam Peters is really starting to find his rhythm there at quarterback. And also, too, this actually might. So, okay, let me rephrase this. It's a must win for both, but for different reasons. Because you remember Southern Jackson didn't count for in the SWAC.
Right.
So this would be Southern's first conference loss. If PV goes down 0-2 in division, the season's done for them.
Playing
You
role of
can't,
spoiler.
yeah, that's it. That's what you're down to. But also, I have heard from the Southern side, if Southern loses this game, Coach, the fan base is fed up already. And people laughed at me when I said it, Coach. The fan base is fed up already.
But I mean, and we can do this on another show, but I guess it's still early. It's still early. But if you go down, I get it. But to, just kick everybody off the hype train right now, I mean, I don't you're starting over, you're starting from scratch. Um, I mean, I'm just wondering what the expectations really were. Were they realistic
No.
expectations? But, you know, again,
But
that's me.
here's what we're looking at. So they lose this game, they're 1-3, right?
Yep.
They're losing to Nichols for sure. It's 1-4. Are you confident Texas Southern on the road after what Texas Southern did to PV? Probably not.
That's tough.
So you look at staring at 1-5 potentially, and then after that, Coach, this is where it gets ugly. Alcorn comes into town for homecoming, and then you get on the road to FAMU.
That's back to back rough. Back to back rough.
But,
Oh, ain't no
I
doubt.
mean,
If you don't
I
get
mean,
this
we're
one, if you don't get this one, you're in trouble. Ain't no doubt.
yeah,
If you don't
for
get this one,
sure. And,
and
and I
that's for
trust.
both sides.
Listen, I'm just a messenger on that one, but I also got PV winning that one. Coach, this is a interesting game. South Dakota State, number one team in the country, 28.5-point favorites on the road, Coach. They're coming to Hammond, Louisiana this weekend to face Southeastern Louisiana. Any chance that we get a closer game in Hammond than people expect?
Oh man, I no, nah. I wanted to take those points, but I just thought I don't think we can do that.
No, I got South Dakota State covered, especially because Coach they only beat a D2 team last week 24-3, and I thought Jimmy Rogers was going to have just explode at the podium. He was pissed, and you could tell he was mad. So an angry South Dakota State team, yeah, let me go ahead and get them to
Yeah.
like Colin said, let me go ahead and get them Dakota boys for the cover. That's what we're gonna do on that one. Coach, our other pick'em of the week: Missouri State, UT Martin.
Whew. Um, I got to go UT. UT is one of those teams that need a win to keep pace as well. I got to go with them.
Yeah, I like UT Martin to win this game. Bounce back win after that SEMO. Now, Coach, this is one of the weirdest spreads of the weekend. Northern Arizona is a 3.5-point favorite over ranked Incarnate Word this weekend. And Incarnate Word is at home.
They know something we don't, man. I saw that when I was looking through the deal, and I didn't quite understand that.
Now, just put in perspective, Northern Arizona's look good, right? They're 2-1.
Right.
They beat Lincoln CA 66-6, which we're not counting that. Then they lost to Arizona, a ranked team in the FBS, only 22-10. Played them really close, and they dominated Utah Tech last week. So, two subpar wins and a close FBS loss. I don't know what the hype is, Coach. I picked Incarnate Word to win this one outright, and I don't even know if it'll be close.
I gotta go with the home team as well. That's why I was like, Uh, Something's going on. Something we did somebody get suspended? I mean, what do they
I,
know that we don't know?
and it's also the sports book too, because you know how it is. You got a 1-2 incarnate word team, and so but they don't know that they play the number one team in the country and like the number 12 team on the country on the road. So it's different than playing if they played the same schedule as Northern Arizona, they'd be 2-1 as well, I would imagine, and they probably would have played Arizona competitively. Um, Coach, this uh, Idaho 13 and a half at Abilene Christian. This is another ranked matchup, Coach. Your Vandals, man. That's why I wanted to do the recap so bad, Coach. Your Vandals are balling right now.
Man, they are a little ahead of what I thought they would be, and then when they have the the injury, they just keep chugging, man. Um, I'm riding with them. I like that.
Yeah. That's why I want. If we have time at the end, I'll ask you because we only got like two more games. I want to have a conversation about that real quick. But North Carolina A&T at North Carolina Central, the Aggie Eagle Classic. Coach, this is shocking here. Central's only a 7.5 point favorite in this one at home.
I was gonna take A&T as the underdog, and then I thought about what happened last year, and I was like, nah, let me leave that one alone. Um, I got to take Coach. I got to take Coach Leone with this one.
Yeah, give me Central to
Win,
cover now.
win, and cover.
Maybe it's because Walker Harris went down with an injury last week, Coach. But from what I heard, he is available this week. So if Walker Harris is healthy, I think Central wins this one convincingly. Now, if Walker's out, we might be having a little bit of a different conversation because I don't know who they have behind him.
Yeah,
So we'll
that's where
see.
that
Now,
7.5 might come into play.
yeah. Now the last two we'll go here. Tarleton State 6 point favorites over North Alabama.
What's the word on my queue there at Tarleton?
So at Tarleton, Coach, Victor is not back, but they have not played Pete since that atrocious opening that he had coming in for
Yeah,
Victor. They
agreed.
actually went with, let me get the name, Daniel Greek is the starting quarterback this week. 2 games played, Coach, 256 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Though, got to note, though, Kayvon Britton, Coach, a guy that everyone in here should be familiar of
Ripping
because
it up,
of UAPB, 387 rushing yards this year, Coach, man, been balling.
ripping it up, and I like them. I was driving that train as well as the Idaho train.
Yep.
So I'm not off it just yet. So I'm gonna take Tarleton for the road win.
Yep, I like Charleston here. The last one, Coach, everyone asked me to cover this one. I didn't want to break it down, though. We don't usually cover FBS games. FAMU at Troy. 26.5 point underdogs are the Rattlers. Coach, any chance FAM gets an FBS win or covers the spread?
I really would like for them to, um, but Troy's backed up. They haven't got off to a good start, and I think it might be some people fighting for their jobs in this situation. So I mean, they're gonna come out all guns a blazing, using everything they have. So I want to say Fam covers. They just don't get the win.
I like them covering. I think we can get there at 21, 24 points ish. Troy hasn't been great this year,
Right.
but I don't think FAM has enough to win this game. Just me personally. Now I'm with you. I'm rooting for it. Coach, I said in the preseason. You remember me saying this. This needed to be the year the SWAC broke through. I thought it was Jackson, and they played really really well against the ULM team that has looked shockingly good this year.
Crazy.
ULM yeah, ULM bounced back in a big way. So give a shout out to that program and that new staff. But I really just I want to see at least a step forward for the SWAC coach. Because if FAM can at least be competitive, it kind of propels the conference into next year. Jackson was close. They were close. Can we get there? Because the streak's got to end eventually, man. So I'm rooting for all SWAC teams out of conference. Oh, yeah. And this is funny enough, Coach. Troy has ULM next week, too. So all these SWAC out of conference, like G5 games, all play each other. Now, Coach, real quick, I know you got to get out of here in just a second. I did what you asked me not to do in the offseason. Myself, Sam Herder, Jamie Williams, were three people that dropped South Dakota State from the number one spot in the top 25. All three of us ranked Idaho number one in this week's top 25, man. So I had to bring it up to you because I know you were passionate about this in the all season, saying that the champs got to lose an FCS game to be taken down. But I made the call, man. Idaho is too good right now.
I saw that when you posted it. I retweeted it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you. We couldn't. I'm good with Idaho, but we could have worked it as a tie or however you want to put it.
Yeah.
But
Just put him in this.
but yeah, both received the same amount of votes, but just to take the number one spot, man, I just
Now, here's my argument real quick. If I'm going to use resume to determine 5 through 25,
I get it.
If I got to say, okay, like right now, so I got Lamar, Lafayette, Illinois State. That's 18 through 20. Well, if I got to do resume to determine who gets ranked in what order, then I got to use this. I can't use different logic to rank the top four than I do the bottom five. I got to. Here's where I come in, Coach. You take the top four resumes. I think North Dakota State has the least impressive resume right now. That they're only, they struggled against ETSU, which they were a massive favorite. Should have lost that game if it weren't for just some dumb mistakes from ETSU. Their best win is Tennessee State. They lost their FBS game, which it was solid. South Dakota State has a ranked win, so that bumps them up over North Dakota State. Montana State has an FBS win and has looked dominant against overmatched opponents. So that put Montana State above the Dakotas for me. And then Idaho, Coach, with a backup quarterback, has the most dominant ranked win of the season. They were up 41-6 before a late touchdown from UAlbany. They have an FBS win with a backup quarterback in his first ever career start and played the number 3 FBS school in the nation down to the last minute.
I'm hearing everything you said, but I box Bud Crawford and we go to a decision. You box Bud Crawford. You knock him out. I still won. You still won.
Yeah.
I keep the belt.
That's crazy. I'm with you. You keep the belt, and it will all work itself out. But
Oh,
to
no
me,
doubt.
I had to do it, man. Just because, and also too, because I was gonna move North Dakota State down anyway. But how can I punish North Dakota State for struggling with ETSU and not punish South Dakota State for struggling with a D2 team?
Well, you still, at the end of the day, I don't know how you punish a team that wins anyway, but I get what you're saying. But,
Yeah,
hey, man, the
it's
champ is a champ. It's
it
just
is.
somebody else.
And it will change because there's always those games where if someone loses in a week, like if Idaho loses this week, I'm just dropping out. Like I don't even want to vote anymore. I won't have any idea what to do with my ballot at that point. So we'll see. But that Idaho Montana State game in I think it's like 3 weeks. It's going to be insane up there in
That's why I
Bozeman,
say
man.
the polls don't matter. They don't really matter right now. I mean, it looks good
No,
for us, but the true polls get at me around week 7. Um, you know,
I I about to say I feel you on that one. But man, any last words, Coach, man, before we get out of here? I know you got some games to go to tonight, man. So anything you want to say to everyone before we get out of here?
nah, man, just appreciate y'all rocking with us, man. We're gonna get back on schedule. It's just been a little hectic. We're done with this Thursday schedule. We're done with a late 30-hour return trip from a game schedule. So we're gonna get back on track, man. We're gonna get back on track and we're gonna rock. Keep
Hey, man,
rocking with us.
we need the SWAC to get another out of conference win, man. Southland wins, have been tough to come by. Still the only team to ever beat McNeese, man. We need to keep that streak going. Uh, hey, the Braves are going to be rocking this weekend in Lake Charles, man. So make sure to tune into that game. Make sure to tune into whatever FCS game, man, you want to tune into this weekend. Me and Coach will be back on Sunday afternoon and hit the like button, subscribe, check out the audio version. What is it? On all podcast streaming platforms with Timothy Rosario. We drop those on Tuesday and Thursday. So make sure to check that out on the website, si.com/college/FCS. But for
Hold
Coach
on, B. Hold
Fred,
on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on,
yeah,
hold on, hold on.
what's up?
What's not happening, Paris?
Oh, look, that's what she's talking about. She said McNeese by 40.
Oh, okay. Right, Paris.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
And Quentin, I do have Lamar in my top 25, man. Lamar's been balling, so I got to give him that. But man, guys, I got to get Coach Fred out of here, man. So, but for Coach Fred, myself, the Blue Bloods, FCS Football Central on SI, we out for right now.